What the heck?
We are back on the road again this weekend, headed over to the Ozark National Forest to the Shores Lake Campground. It's actually a little bit of a risk this weekend. We're actually leaving sunny conditions, but it's quite windy here in Oklahoma. And we're going to head over to a campground that it says on the weather app that it will end the rain just about the time that we arrive. So I've never done this before, but we're going to take a little risk and see what we find. Welcome to another episode of Eric's Camping Adventures. So the Shores Lake Campground is in the south central area of the Ozark National Forest, and it is just a pretty little lake. There's some hiking trails around it. The trails do connect up towards the White Rock Mountain area. I have hiked there before on a solo hike, and well, it really wasn't a solo hike because I took my big old Anatolian Shepherd with me, and it was a good time. It's a very nice area, just rolling hills, soft packed paths that are just a very enjoyable hike. So we're probably going to spend the night there, maybe do a little hiking in the morning, and then head back home.
The drive into Shores Lake was beautiful, rolling hills. The mist from the rain was just concluding, and there was fog coming off down in the low valley points, especially as we came down into Shores Lake. Hurricane Creek was just steaming as we came across it, and the beauty was pretty profound. And then we pulled up to the locked gate and found out that the campground was closed because of the pandemic. I didn't even check the National Forest website to see if Shores Lake was open because we'd been to Redding just the weekend before and it was open. So I drove up out of the valley just a little bit to get some cell phone reception and navigated up to the White Rock Mountain campground, and we started up the mountain. This is where the fail really began. So we left the pavement, hit the dirt roads, and we're pushing as fast as we could up the mountain. And it's a pretty bumpy ride. Did not realize what was going on behind us in our little overlanding trailer. So what happened was my self-built tailgate for my overlanding trailer that was built out of angle iron and some traction boards came off the back while we were going up the bumpy roads. I was a little surprised because this thing made it all the way up to Rocky Mountain National Park. We lost all of our equipment out the back. My wife is sitting in the car laughing while I'm picking up our camp toilet in the middle of the road. We had to run up and down the mountain actually twice. Ended up at the office to check in the dark, set up in the dark. My wife is still laughing at me while we are cooking dinner from watching me pick up the toilet in the middle of the road. So we are settled in here at White Rock Mountain tonight instead of at Shores Lake Campground. Shores Lake Campground is closed due to the pandemic, but White Rock Mountain had some openings, and it's about 7 miles up the mountain from Shores Lake Campground. And we're up on top of the mountain. We can hear the wind blowing outside, and had some nice sunset views coming up and down the mountain. And we had to go up and down it twice because probably about halfway up the mountain we lost some of our equipment that fell out the back tailgate of the overlanding trailer. So we had to turn around, go back, find the tailgate, find all the equipment that fell out, and we found everything except for a tote with some light, cheap little blankets in it that we had brought extra. Everything else we recovered. Our sleeping bags, of course the electric heating blanket. We absolutely had to have that. And we did find that, so we are settled in for the night. We set up camp in the dark tonight, so I didn't get any pictures for you of the camp setup, but we'll do that in the morning. Have a good night. So this is our campsite. It is still foggy and drizzly up on top of the mountain this morning. We have a cold wife. We have a CVT rooftop tent with mud all over that thing for coming up the dirt roads to the mountain. We got our butane propane stove running this morning on a hose because of the cold, right back to the propane tank. Just walk you around the other side here. It's a cold, desolate morning out in the middle of nowhere. And we are making some coffee right now. That's the idea. We got into the car and headed back down the mountain. It was just cold, exposed, and foggy, and there was no way to actually take any decent pictures from the overlook at White Rock Mountain. So we headed back down the mountain to explore at Shores Lake. So after a lot of laughter at ourselves, which is never a fail, we did have some things go right on this trip. The 0-degree Teton sleeping bags were nice and toasty, especially with that electric blanket underneath. So when we went up the mountain yesterday evening, when we took inventory of the totes that we lost, everything came out of our tent trailer. And so we turned around, went back down the mountain, and we immediately found the first tote, and it had our sleeping bags in it. So that was hopeful. At least we could stay warm on the mountain overnight. And then we came across our toilet, and it was it was spread out all over the road. you can bet nobody wanted to touch that baby. So we just picked up the parts, put it back together, and we had our toilet back. And then we went a little bit further down the road, and we found our pillows, our 12-volt electric blanket to keep us warm, and we were pretty much set. The only tote that we couldn't find was basically some extra blankets that we had bought. They were cheap. The tote was cheap, so we lost it. We didn't really lose anything of any value, except the nostalgic value of these little fuzzy Glacier National Park blankets that were probably $10 when we were in the Glacier National Park store. So no big financial loss. We made it through the night with everything we needed, but it had a little disappointing to have that gate come off the back of my overlanding trailer and lose an item. So got lucky this time. It was nothing of any value. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Eric's Camping Adventures.